Hi, welcome once again to Senior Focus. I'm your host, Bill Adams. Senior Focus is a show designed for adults over the age of about 50, but of course, if you're younger than that, feel free to stay tuned. We want to thank, first of all, off the top, Greg Roten from Armstrong Cable. Greg brings the show to you on Channel 20 and 100. If you happen to miss any of the show, you can always go to On Demand or go onto YouTube and just type in Armstrong Cable and Senior Focus, and there are many shows that are archived if you missed part of it. Also, thanks to the public library system, we come to you today from Austintown, and we're going to be talking with Kasey Knopp. Kasey, why don't you give your exact title, but you're from RSVP, and we'll explain what that is.
Yeah, so my name is Kasey Knopp, and I am the program coordinator for the Senior Corps Retired and Senior Volunteer Program, or RSVP. The program has been a little bit dormant in the area. We concentrate on trying to get seniors 55 and older in the community to be more involved with their local nonprofit organizations or for-profit organizations that provide a service to people that are in need. We try to concentrate mostly on helping seniors or helping those that are in some way disabled or just require more assistance. And we also work a lot with low-income communities. Mm-hmm.
Now, at the top, we'll mention contact information, and again, we'll mention it later in the show, but if people are interested, where would they get a hold of you?
You can find me, my office is located in the First Presbyterian Church at 201 Wick Avenue in Youngstown. We are on the second floor. If I'm not in the office, as I am out a lot, you can call me at 330-480-0352, or you can email me at kknopp@fcsohio.org. And that's the best way to get me, and I'll get right back to you.
And again, we'll talk about the history of RSVP a little bit, but and what some of the ideas are that you have for where people may be able to volunteer. That's the purpose of the show, really, is to sort of spur people to maybe, there's a great need in the community in a number of agencies. Yeah. And so the time commitment, why don't we just start with that, because that might be something that people are leery of, but it's actually not that major, right?
It really isn't. So under Senior Corps, there are two active programs, and I think we'll mention the one, Foster Grandparents, My Sister program, a bit later. And that requires, because it has this small government stipend, it does require more in terms of hours and volunteerism. That's at least 15 hours a week with a maximum of 40. But for my program, RSVP, we ask that you volunteer at least 5 hours every 6 months. So you're looking at, less than an hour a month, and you could even, get that out and helping with one larger event, like some of the bigger fundraisers that different organizations in the community have. So you can do it whenever you have free time. There's no set standard that it has to be from a certain hour to a certain hour.
So that's available, again, maybe on a one-time basis, but ideally, I guess you'd like people to maybe once a week or so, whatever their time permits, to go out and work, right?
Right. It's very helpful. A lot of the local organizations really depend on their volunteers to keep the organization running. So kind of having a little bit of a set schedule that maybe you make is going to be best, because it's going to allow them to kind of continue to expand programs, and you're not going to be hopefully not the only volunteer at these organizations, so it allows them to kind of keep things running smoothly, and that way your time volunteering is spent doing something productive instead of kind of haphazardly just thrown together.
Well, I know you've been, again, you just started up a few months ago here in the area. Let's go back, because this program was with Hands-On Volunteer Network.
It was for a number of years.
But unfortunately, a few years back, they dissolved.
Yes.
So really, there hasn't been an RSVP program in Mahoning County for a while.
There has not been for about 4 years. There has not been one in Mahoning, and we're in Trumbull County as well, and the same goes for Trumbull.
Okay.
So I started in July, and I'm really, really working to try to get our name out. A lot of people don't realize that we do exist. and they don't understand what the benefits are of volunteering through RSVP instead of going directly to the site. So we're trying to just get our name out there and get people to be involved and learn a little bit more about us.
Why don't we talk about some of the organizations that you've worked with? I guess they're called, what, memorandums of understanding?
Yeah,
where
the MOUs.
they agree basically to take on the volunteers.
Exactly. So a few of the sites that we have set up are, Habitat for Humanity is a big one, and they've expanded through the whole of the Mahoning Valley now. They just took in Columbiana County as well. Yeah.
Okay.
I have MVI Hospice Care, Senior Independence. I'm up at the Lake Vista and Park Vista. We have opportunities with Cafe Augustin, which is out of the Newport branch of the library. Have MOUs with basically all of the Shepherds of the Valleys in the area, and those are just a couple of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So again, if those folks are interested out there, well, some of the things would be obvious, like with the cafe.
Right.
That's helping with running the cafe and maybe pouring coffee.
Well, even more than that, what their goal is, it's based on the Redemption Cafe that Emerald Lagasse has. And so they're taking people that are in high school mostly and teaching them about their life skills and job skills. So it's volunteers would help run it if they are interested in that. It's run mostly as an after-school program, but something that they are in need of are people who are interested in sitting down every other week on Tuesdays. They provide opportunities to sit down and speak with the kids about things like resume building, how to conduct an interview, how to dress professionally. So it's life skills, and they look for people who are interested in teaching something about that. Maybe they were an educator or had a background in recruitment.
The retired human resources person would be great.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, I'm glad I asked.
Yeah, it goes well beyond what you would kind of think. A lot of the places that we work with are very willing, and this is where our specialization comes in. We want to find out what you enjoy doing, maybe what you did in the past, and find a place for you that's almost like a specialized volunteer opportunity so that you enjoy what you're doing.
So when somebody would come in, what they would call first, I imagine, do you set up an interview, or how does that start?
Yes. So give me a call. I actually live in the Greenford area and commute to work in Youngstown every day. If you are not able to get to my office, especially with the construction now on Wick Avenue, which starts right in front of my office, I'm more than happy to meet you at a library or a cafe. We have a small application to fill out, just with a little bit more information about each volunteer, what they enjoy doing, any special skills they have, if they have any limitations, don't think that for Habitat for Humanity that you're gonna have to be out on site building houses. They have a restore that they can run and need people in the back filing and things. So, people, making sure you're doing that, whatever the volunteer opportunity is, you're comfortable with it, and discussing any prior volunteer opportunities that you have taken part in, or what your interests are, where you're willing to go. If you're in Mahoning County, but you're on the border of Trumbull, are you comfortable going to Trumbull County or not? And getting to know a little bit more about you and telling about our volunteer sites and opportunities. And so it's a brief meeting, and then we'd go from there.
And now, as far as the criteria, it's pretty simple, right? I mean, you could describe it. Go ahead. Yeah.
Criteria, or we ask that you are 55 and older, and that you, this is dependent on volunteer sites. The only other thing is that you need to pass, we do check the National Sex Offender Registry.
Okay.
Cannot be on that. And then from there, each volunteer site has certain requirements of their volunteers, whether that is training, or sometimes, the background checks, fingerprints, TB test. Each volunteer site has their own volunteer requirement.
Right.
And so from there, they may require more, but for us, it's just, we require that you have and want to volunteer and that you're 55 or older.
Well, just thinking about and I could see why there would be a need for like a criminal background check.
Right.
Would that be something that the site would pay for?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Because I know there's a small cost. Yeah.
There usually is a small cost, and most of the spots that require that are, Shepherd of the Valley or MVI Hospice Care, and they oversee most of that and do it usually on site.
Okay. So you have a person who comes in, they do the interview, you determine what their abilities are and what their need or what they want to do.
Yep.
And then do you go with them on the first visit out to the site, or how does that work when they would go out?
I would. I, first of all, go to every site and visit them to make sure that they are appropriate, to make sure that the site itself is safe, and to actually see what the volunteers would be doing, and to make sure that it is appropriate, that the volunteer isn't going to be in some kind of physical, danger or possibly in harm's way. And to make sure that what they're asking of the volunteers is appropriate, because a lot of organizations really have a large need, and sometimes volunteer opportunities may seem more like job descriptions.
Right.
And we don't want the volunteers to be stressed out from the get-go. So I will do the initial site visit, and I can absolutely go out with the volunteers to the site on the first day, make sure everything goes over smoothly, and I like to call and check in afterwards with both the site and the volunteer to say, is this a good fit? Because if they weren't feeling it the first day, maybe they said, I don't want to go back there, I want something else.
Right.
That's perfectly
and again,
fine.
Yeah, there are many opportunities, so if they decide at the first location it's not for them, there are other things they may want to do.
No one's going to hold it against you. I've had people go into hospitals and say, I want to do something more than what, this allowed me to do. And I loved it, but I don't feel like it's the right fit for me. That's not a problem. Don't feel bad. You should enjoy what you're doing.
And I'm glad that, a lot of the opportunities, as you mentioned, things like Park Vista and Shepherd of the Valley, are helping seniors. I mean, again, that's part of what the program is. It's using seniors, not using, but I mean, it's employing seniors. That's another word, but employing as a volunteer to work with other seniors to help.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So with the the process of signing up. After they've signed up, you'd mentioned training. That's up to the organization?
That is up to each organization. Most of them, especially when you're working in, maybe an assisted living facility or a nursing home, they do have typically requirements of so many hours of volunteer training because of HIPAA compliance and different things. I know Habitat for Humanity has a volunteer training that you go to that's a brief presentation, getting to know what exactly your duties are. And some places, if you just do, maybe you're part of fundraising for something, they may not have any kind of training, but most places do. Some range from, maybe a quick hour before you start to maybe 8 to 10 hours of training required before you start.
Well, you mentioned the word HIPAA, which I know, but maybe some of the folks that aren't in the medical field wouldn't know, but that's basically about privacy. And I could see where, if a volunteer is working in a medical facility or long-term care, they would want to be trained in, how to protect privacy. And again, we were talking before the show about your own volunteer needs as a startup with RSVP with sort of an advisory council. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, so even if you're watching this and you're under the age of 55, you can partake in our advisory council. So the basic needs for the advisory council, we're looking for people that are active community members that are interested in being involved with Senior Corps, not just RSVP, it would be for foster grandparents as well. And the advisory council is in charge of raising funds for us, kind of helping us with branding, get our name out. And also they're in charge of getting together any needs that we have in terms of materials or foods or anything when it comes to our volunteer appreciation luncheon. Our volunteers work hard. We want you to know that you're very, very appreciated in the community. So we like to put together a nice annual luncheon to celebrate everybody and to let you know all of the amazing goals that have been reached in terms of volunteer hours and what that ends up being monetarily, how much money you have saved the organization by putting your volunteer hours in. And as our program is federally funded, so as an employee, myself and my director, we are not allowed to go out and fundraise. We're not allowed to ask for checks. We're not allowed to ask for in-kind donations. That is what our advisory council is supposed to do. And in order to maintain the program, basically, we have to meet at least 30% of what our grant was from the federal government.
Okay.
And because, like you said, we were kind of dormant for a number of years. We've got a growing advisory council, and we really need more members. Right now, we meet usually twice a month, every other Friday, usually at the Scope Trumbull, the Trumbull County Scope.
Is that in Warren?
Yeah,
Okay.
off Market
Okay.
Street. So we're looking to grow that. We've got mostly members from Trumbull County right now, so it'd be great to get some people from Mahoning County involved.
So again, that's another opportunity to work with RSVP locally. Again, we'll mention this towards the end, but why don't we give out the contact information again and where you could be reached?
Yes, I can be reached. I am at 201 Wick Avenue, Youngstown, Ohio, so First Presbyterian Church. You can call me at 330-480-0352 or email me at kknopp@fcsohio.org.
And we'll come back to the RSVP program, which again is a volunteer program, but maybe at this point you could talk a little bit about the foster grandparent program.
Yes.
Which is
Our sister
also
program.
Okay.
So under Corporation for National and Community Service, you see there's AmeriCorps and NCCC and then Senior Corps. So under Senior Corps, there are 3 programs, 2 of which are active in Mahoning and Trumbull, and that's RSVP and foster grandparents. Now, foster grandparents, contrary to what you think when you think fostering, you're not bringing children into your home.
Okay.
So the main goal of foster grandparents is to have, the volunteers be kind of mentors or tutors, and that would be going into different school systems. We are community partners in Youngstown City Schools, and then we have some sites in Warren as well, and various sites in Trumbull County. And they will go out and work almost as a teacher's aide,
Okay.
working one-on-one with children who just need that extra bit of help, whether it's the mentorship or it's they need assistance with their homework. So you're always one-on-one with a child. You're not, in a huge group setting.
Okay.
Also have some programs set up at different daycares. We actually have some volunteers at the local branch of the Akron Children's Hospital to be in the waiting room with the kids, reading stories, talking to them while the parents are with the doctors. So that is a stipend program. Requires more volunteer hours.
Okay.
It's a minimum of 15 hours per week, a maximum no more than 40. While you're signed up with foster grandparents, very similarly to when you sign up with RSVP, you are given mileage reimbursement, so to and from the site, mileage reimbursement. You are provided with supplemental health insurance. That way, if something occurs while you're on site, basically that supplemental insurance foots the excess of the medical bill that your insurance does not cover. And also car insurance, because you're going to be driving to and from the site. So if something happens on your way there, you've got that little extra bit of padding and coverage.
Okay.
The stipend is, I think it's $2.60 an hour. It's non-taxable, so it will not affect your Social Security either. In order to be able to collect the stipend, you cannot, as a single head of household, cannot be making more than $23,000 a year, and for a couple, it's $31,000 a year. It's a little bit more involved. Like I said, there's more training. They do the criminal background check, fingerprints, everything like that, since you will be working with children and in school systems mostly. And they have in-services and educational opportunities. I believe it's once a month. And the office is located out of the Scope Trumbull County building in Warren.
Okay.
And your kind of contact person, her name is Fran Comstock, and you can reach her at fcomstock@fcsohio.org, or just call Scope Trumbull and ask for Fran.
And when you mention FCS, again, maybe we can explain how you're with Family and Community Service?
Yes, so it's Family and Community Services, Inc., not to be confused with Compass. People in this area kind of go, oh, Compass. No, Family and Community Services, Inc. is a large nonprofit organization based out of Ravenna, Ohio.
Okay.
And they're kind of an umbrella. They have about 50 nonprofit organizations underneath them that they oversee. So they will often be the people that will, if I suppose you would say, support, if you will, the grants or apply for these grants. And
administrative.
They're pretty much administrative, and they have a variety of different organizations. Even in this area, we've got Service Solutions is one.
Okay.
So there are different organizations in the area.
They run Scope now, right?
Yes, they run Scope now.
In Trumbull
All
County.
of them, yeah.
All in Trumbull, okay.
All of the Scope. Mhm.
Okay, so that makes sense why foster grandparents
Parents is out of there.
out of that.
Yeah.
Again, we're talking mostly about RSVP, though, and about the need for volunteers in this area. And again, if you want to maybe just go over some of the locations and some ideas of what people might be doing if they volunteer.
Absolutely. Another location that we have, aside from the MVI Hospice, Senior Independence, and the different assisted living facilities, is I'll be working soon with the Alzheimer's Association.
Okay.
The Mahoning Valley Alzheimer's Association is one of the most active charters of the Alzheimer's Association in the country. Helen Pius is the person to contact over at the Alzheimer's Association. They're located mostly out of Canfield, and they need people actually to help with their fundraising program. So it's Paint the Night Purple, I believe.
Right, and they have their memory walk.
And they have their memory walk, which we just had a few weeks ago over in WIC. And on top of that, they also are looking for people, and this is where HIPAA gets involved again, to run kind of a help hotline where people who themselves are suffering from Alzheimer's or dementia or other cognitive impairments, or their family members can call and speak to people who have had personal experience with it and can kind of talk to them as a little bit of a sounding board. And she said they're really in need of that support in the community because that hotline gets a lot of calls.
Oh, okay.
So kind of peer-to-peer counseling, if you will. Yeah, so that's another very big one. Habitat for Humanity needs people in their restore to help run the restore. So if you have any retail experience or you like, retail, it's a great chance for you to go over there and you'll do pricing, maybe you'll be a part of the crew that goes out on the truck and picks up all the donations, different places, cleaning things, or in the office, they can always use people as well for filing and different fundraising efforts. And also out on the construction site, they always need people to help build the houses.
And is Monica still there? Monica
Oh, yes.
Craven.
Yes, she is.
She was on the show maybe a year ago or so. And, I know they do a tremendous amount of work, and they've expanded into Columbiana, right?
Massively, yeah. They just expanded, and they're taking in, so now it's the Mahoning Valley Habitat for Humanity.
Well, why don't we talk about, we have about 5 minutes left or so, maybe some of the benefits of volunteering. I know there have been studies. I mean, I'm not an expert in the field, but I know there are, physical and mental benefits, but maybe we talk about, as an incentive for people.
Hugely. So while many of these volunteers are probably going to be retired, and a lot of people, studies show the first year or so is usually that awesome time where you're like, I'm retired and I'm just going to do whatever I feel like doing. But after that year kind of passes by, if you don't have grandkids nearby that you're, super involved with, you get a little bit bored. And studies have shown that actually socialization is the best way to maintain your cognitive ability, is the best way to maintain your physical health. So, when you have this feeling of you're needed, don't think that just because you've hit 55 or older that you're not needed. Your community definitely needs you. And you can play an integral part in the community by volunteering, and don't feel like, because you can't lift 50 pounds anymore, that means that you can't volunteer. There, as I've mentioned, plenty of volunteer opportunities that don't entail you to have, a rigorous amount of strength. And it's also just a sense of, you're still getting to know people. You get to form a lot of different relationships with people who are younger than you, who are older than you, the same age as you. And you get to make a change. You're making a difference in your community. A lot of people kind of look out your back door. I mean, I live in Greenford, and you think, there's not a whole lot that needs help and change. But don't forget your neighbors in Youngstown. And don't forget your neighbors in Camel and different areas like that. So everyone needs help in some way or another.
Yeah, I just came this weekend. I am working out of town. In addition, I'm sort of split between living in Youngstown and the Columbus area, and just participated in what's called Make a Difference Day down in that area. And again, that would be something that would fulfill because the RSVP requirements, because it was like basically a one-day volunteer, work with seniors, clean up their houses, their yards, and things like that, or work at a nonprofit. So again, with RSVP, this could be an event that you do on occasion?
Absolutely. We like to try to hold events on Veterans Day. September 11th is a day of remembrance and also a day of giving back. So we try to make programs available around those kind of bigger days.
And, there are things coming up for the holidays, with the Christmas time. And again, there are so many people out there that could benefit, at an event at the holidays. So maybe that would be another thing that an RSVP volunteer could work on.
Absolutely. There are plenty of different food drives and jacket drives that are happening, and they're going to need people to volunteer to sort through all of that and get everything where it needs to be.
Okay, well, we have a minute or so to go. Why don't we give the contact information one last time?
Okay, it is 201 Wick Avenue, Youngstown, Ohio, in the First Presbyterian Church. I'm on the second floor. Or you can call 330-480-0352 or email me at kknopp@fcsohio.org.
Well, thanks, Kasey. We've been talking about RSVP, which is starting to get up and running again here in Mahoning County, and we hope that you join and volunteer. My name is Bill Adams. You've been watching Senior Focus. Want to thank Greg Roten from Armstrong Cable, and also want to thank the Public Library, which allowed us to use the Austintown Library. And if you join RSVP, you could work over at the Newport Library.
Yep.
So thanks again for watching, and until next time, take care.
The history, the sports, the stories, the events. Armstrong Local Programming puts the focus on our community. Watch to learn about new events or discover the rich history of our area. You can find local programming on your local programming channel and on demand. Want even more? Subscribe to the Armstrong One Wire channel on YouTube. It's our town all the time with Armstrong Local Programming. One Wire, infinite possibilities.